Greetings, folks. Oh, I could see that we have not thrown that in anything for this. Guess I forgot to put the AverMedia feed, so it's just 5 minutes of silence for no reason. I am, incredibly sorry about that. Greetings, and, Totals, I'm down here at the bottom middle of your screen. Hi, yes, I thought I would try moving the webcam somewhere that would be a little bit more feasible. Welcome back to another episode of Grim Dawn, Dawn of Masteries. This is episode 7 of I don't know how many, if I'm being completely honest with you. How's everyone doing today? Tonight? This morning? Depending on where you are. I apologize for any of my downtrodden appearance, but I spent the latter part of, I want to say 8 hours, more or less, working through streaming issues, mainly in the form of a monitor that wouldn't start, and when that wasn't the case, a Windows update just obliterated my voice meter settings. Awful. Absolutely awful. But that's okay. That's perfectly fine. I'm gonna be reeling from that one for a while, but you know, what did end up coming out of that mess was learning how voice meter potato worked. I got an extra audio cable out of it. I've modulated the settings a little bit, although really, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm gonna have to learn it again for Twitch on Sunday. That's gonna be fun, but I digress. You guys didn't come here to witness that. Speaking of things witnessed, I think I made some upgrades off camera. Those upgrades are mostly rings and necklaces. Not much else beyond that. Yeah, that was mainly it. So, in terms of where we were last time, we basically put an end to Cronley and then took care of some loose ends. Kasparov sent us on a sort of a goose egg hunt. We explored a dangerous place known as East Marsh, and we proceeded to have some real fun, although I'm concerned about this place we have not found yet. We will come back to it, don't worry. But oh, I get the feeling we didn't do a very smart thing. We're gonna have to carve through Cronley's minions again. Let's see. Yep, that's gonna be the case. Oh well, we get to have fun warming up, I guess. And because of all of our nice, lovely upgrades, look at how quickly we just shredded a small group of enemies. Also, one thing that you may notice is the stream's quality might have lessened, and that reason has to do with lowering the bitrate. I was sitting at a cool 6,000, but I was dropping too many frames, and I'm trying a sort of just lower... I'm trying a lower throughput on bit rating to see if that shores up any weaknesses. Sometimes you can have leaked frames, which means you're not running fast enough, but I'm really highly doubting that is the case. But I'm gonna try something, because otherwise we have dropped streams for no reason, and That's just not good for us. Just look at all that carnage. And we only took a little bit of damage. Yeah, this is just fantastic. And we can shred things before they even come to us. Which is really kind of the goal. In Dawn of Masteries, everything is so offense-focused that if you don't, gotta be careful I don't lose sight of my, you know, food and stuff. That's just beautiful. Dark Core just sat there and shredded it. I think our build's going to be very good once we get it rolling. Very good. You guys might be wondering why I'm recording late at night, even though it took me like 9 hours to pretty much get this right, and I wanted to reward myself with a stream, more or less. I felt robbed. I felt robbed of giving you guys something I actually like to do, and that is this. Unfortunately, it's late at night, so I can't speak at my normal voice, but I'm gonna do the best I can with what I've got. To use the game's phrasing, this is just beautiful. Our build is coming along so nicely, and we don't have the final skills yet. And we're also not level 65. I think this thing's gonna really shred once we start hitting those legendaries. Because Sentinelist gets access to some broken stuff. Even Direni, who hit us pretty hard on the way in, just didn't stand any kind of a chance. I suppose Dawn of Masteries isn't quite balanced, is it? So, while we sort of carve through this, while we sort of just carve through the, you know, things we've already killed category, what do you guys think about Grim Dawn so far? I know it's been a little bit, and I did initially cancel the stream, but, I like doing this. We're just gonna, you know, back off slightly. And totally not shred things. This thing is just a real AoE killer. This went from being a spread build to being a, you know, an AoE all-star. It's just amazing. I'm truly impressed. And disturbed by the amount of power the build has. May it never change, truly. Anyone else pick up a build in one of these kinds of games and just go hog wild? Usually I hear stories about this from, like, you know, Diablo 3, like, shredding through, like, like, level 100 greater rifts. I bled out and died. Unfortunate. Oh well. Remember, kids, keep your throat nice and clear, and always, always, always remember to park a rift before you attempt to do something difficult. But yeah, this portion of the game feels pretty free, and what I mean by that is just that, um, you know, you can make your own way toward the goal, toward the next act. Um, Homestead's where things are going to get really interesting because you're going to meet a different group of people who maybe aren't so nice all the time. I won't spoil them yet, but let's say we're going to meet a character that's going to introduce them to us. And you might be surprised who it is. Let me just throw it out that way. I think you guys will like the little plot twist. Although I suspect many of you that are watching this will already know who I'm talking about, and it won't really be a surprise to you, will it? Let's reclaim our grave and keep going. Let's keep going. We got Cronley's place. Hope we don't have to kill Cronley now. It'll just be the aether crystals.
I am going.
Never mind. I misspoke. But, Cronley here shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just look. The pool of aether fire was the most damaging thing he could do. He was just absolutely shredded like a paper doll. This also shredded. No setup required. Your build should start turning on at around this point. Or, you know, you should be able to start surviving bigger pulls. Because the latter portion of the game only gets worse, not better, in terms of what kinds of mobs can hit you. Also, you have like a faction choice to make, and well, I've already spoken too much about that, haven't I? For those who know about Homestead, there's a rather critical juncture. About midway through. Maybe a little bit past that point. Here we are. We're here at Twin Falls. We don't have to worry about this anymore. Be wary, traveler. The savages living up in the Four Hills have destroyed this once magnificent structure in an effort to trap their victims. With the bridge gone and the road to Smuggler's Pass washed out by storms, the way north is barred to us. Is there no other way? There is one other, but you would be a fool to try it. South of here, there are ruins of the ancient city of Arkovia. There is a passage there through the Arkovian Undercity that leads into the Broken Hills. You would be wise to turn back. That is the realm of the cursed dead. Yes, the remnants of Arkovia's cursed people. Their tale is a tragic one, but none could tell it better than Okay, I think I know what it is. I'm just gonna have to trust that it gets better as time passes. I don't normally drop that many frames on YouTube, so I'm thinking I've hit the data limit for the month. Yep, here we are, Coastal Bridge. Didn't take long for us to be railroaded into it, huh? Let's keep going. So we can sort of use this group of rovers here to help us, like, take out enemies if we pull them right to it, but they literally have to be right on top of the rovers or nothing's happening. It's fine, we don't really need them. like, at all, but... Jeez, were you gonna ambush me? Yeah, we can shred groups. No problem. It's actually tougher for us to deal with bosses at this kind of build, but that's fine. We've shored up that weakness pretty significantly with crowd control, spacing, and improvements in our gear, of course. We'll probably start to feel the limits of that gear's power about 10 levels from now.
Can't do that yet.
Probably. So, I want to talk... Oh, well, first, we gotta kill Algrok here. So, I want to mention that that Grim Dawn is this dark world where people do what they gotta do to survive. Kind of like The Last of Us. The show that's been adapted from the game, has pretty much reminded people of that. Every single night. That being said, Grim Dawn, it was doing it before The Last of Us was. Or maybe The Last of Us was doing it first. I don't know. Needless to say, we're about to see a group of, or a couple of individuals engage in such depravity. Please do something, he's gonna kill me. Alright, Julius, what do you want? Hold on there, traveler. You wouldn't want this pretty lady's brains to spill over the ground, would ya? Let's see some iron. I would give 300 bits. Let's just take it easy. Thank you kindly. You go on your merry way now. You still wondering about? Get moving before I change my mind. Ah. You poor stupid thing. Gotta say you're making me feel a little guilty. It's all a sham, hun. You got swindled. We do what we gotta do out here, and it sure beats aiming a gun at every traveler that crosses us. Now get going before you give away our little scheme. I'm glad I bumped into you. You don't have to live like this. A safe place? I forget what that even means. And you'd really take us in, even after what we pulled? I mean, you told us it was a ruse. If you had, you know, gone on, maybe you would be on the other side of a rift, but Cole most certainly wouldn't have. But you told us it was a ruse. And this is an example of the depravity required to survive. Sure, I'll give you a second chance. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Yep, we get to save people. It's like, we saved Steven from, blowing up. Immolating his own family because he didn't think he could save them, and he just kind of mentally snapped. Now we've saved people from, you know, possibly getting, like, knocked by things way more dangerous than themselves, and the humans that they do bump into, someone could have attacked them once they learned about the deceit. And it wouldn't have been hard to do. So we saved some lives. And I think that's a good thing. There are going to be times in Grim Dawn where making that kind of call is the wrong answer, but it's not because your heart was in the wrong place. It's because of the kind of world that Grim Dawn truly sits in, what Cairn has become. Because it is not a world that plays by human rules, you know, where any human any human civilization that had a crime like that take place, the police would be called, or a gun would be pulled out, or people would be negotiating things. But because the world is an apocalypse, that is not what happened here, and it very well could have it could have turned to bloodshed really fast. So, we're in a dangerous domain. Why are we here, you ask? Simple. Lore. Not only lore, but, experience, loot, the typical things that an adventurer, such as ourselves, I guess that's what we could call ourselves, is an adventurer. We're essentially a hero of the wastes, trying to save people, sometimes from themselves.
That skill's not ready.
It's great. And that means getting dirty, taking chances, and making mistakes. How else do you learn? How else do you grow? I think I heard my name being called, so please give me just a moment. I'll be right back. I am sorry about that. Let's continue, shall we? So we're here at the Arcovian Colosseum, and the Arcovian Colosseum is an interesting place because of, one, the way it's structured. You have many points where you have enemies above or below you, but also it has some very good choke points. I.e., if you just place a wall between yourself and them, one they can't pass without, you know, being a boss, then most enemies aren't going to be able to touch you. Or a lot of the natural terrain, just got to be careful. I know, always got to be careful. Very careful. You can always use the natural terrain. It took me a second to think of what I was going to say. You can always use the natural terrain to help you. Okay, we're going to pop a potion. To sort of avoid dealing with a lot of enemies that are going to be getting in your grill or in your face. You can avoid all that by using the walls. And of course having a build like ours. But on top of that, the Colosseum reveals some rather depraved practices that an empire would take part in order to appease its citizenry. You'll see what I mean when we pick up the appropriate lore. Alright, so we have... This is so good. It is so good. We're gonna be a real shredder. Just beautiful. Not even a challenge. Oh, and this is technically the place where you're supposed to get introduced to this particular enemy here. These guys spawn spirits, a lot of them. And on top of spawning spirits, some of them, the bigger ones can... Careful. They can get up a second time with more health, and they'll move faster. This guy right here is one of them.
I can't do that yet.
Look, you see how it just kind of sits there for a second? There you go. That's how it happens. It's just great. And normally those guys are a real pain. Many of those giants also have the ability to lock you in place and keep you from moving. It can be a big deal. If you can't teleport because you're locked down, you are dead with this kind of build. Just straight up, period. No holds barred, no begging, no forgiveness. There's just something to bear in mind.
That skill's not ready.
I had honestly forgotten what penultimate power felt like. Even my Diablo 3 wizard didn't have this much power. At Diablo 3 wizards that use pure elemental damage and don't lock themselves into a typing. Even they don't have this much power. So our bit of lore is sitting right there on the altar. Did we pick up a recipe? I thought we might have, but I don't think that was. Okay, let's read. I joined my colleagues at the Colosseum to watch the gladiators battle. This is a big one. Strap yourselves in. Get comfortable. It was the perfect day. Perfect weather, warm with a slight breeze coming off the river. Joined by good friends and a few skins of Elberk's golden wine. We even got good seats from a wealthy merchant who couldn't get away from some business he had to attend to. We could not believe the fortunes that smiled upon us. We were prepared for a great showing of bravery and excitement. What we saw instead was a nightmare. The first match was a simple duel between the veteran Karnath and some criminal whose name I immediately forgot. It wasn't a fight, but an execution, an appetizer before the main show. In the opener, Karnath toyed with the man, tapping his sword and dodging his pathetically slow attacks. When the crowd got bored and started booing, Karnath did a quick swipe, and the man's guts spilled onto the sand. The people roared, and Karnath threw up his arms in triumph. Turned his back on the criminal and walked away to bask in the accolades. But that was when things took a horrifying turn. The criminal was a dead man. Nobody could have survived such a vicious blow. But instead of dropping upon his own insides, he just stood there, looking at the intestines piling up in the bloody sand. After a few breaths, the man staggered forward. I figured at last the fight would be over, but instead he surged forward, his guts dragging behind him, and buried his blade deep into Karnath's back. A silent gasp overcame the crowd as they witnessed the fall of their favorite champion, but he too did not stagger from the lethal blow. Karnath simply looked at the blade erupting from his chest, spat up a mouthful of blood, and pulled himself free of it. He slowly turned toward his would-be killer. In a rage, Karnath struck out, and with a mighty clash of steel, knocked the blade from the criminal's hand. With the backswing, he cut the man's arm clean off at the elbow. The now de-limbed criminal stumbled backward to recover his weapon, but Karnath had other ideas. The gladiator stamped a mailed boot down on a bundle of sand-covered bloody flesh that snaked its way from his opponent. With a heave, he pulled the criminal back toward him and proceeded with a series of cruel attacks that could only be described as butchery. The crowd watched in silence, horror and awe frozen on their faces, as Karnath delimbed the man, who screamed all the while for mercy, but he would not die. His blood had long stopped pumping, but he would still not die. Exhausted and confused, Karnath stepped back from his bloody work. The criminal, now just the remnants of a torso and a head, gasped and screamed. The gladiator scowled and walked out of the arena toward the barracks, with a dark purpose upon the blood-drenched sword still clenched in his hand. The crowd remained for some time, stunned by what they had witnessed. Nobody came to help the butchered man, who still clung to life at the center of the arena. Though not a word was spoken, our minds were as one. We all feared whatever malady had struck him, so would befall us too, should we get too close. How wrong we were to think that. The curse had already claimed us all. Mar Plavos, first son of House Plavos. Yep. The spectacle of bloody carnage was that people were undead. Truly undead. Nobody could die. Everyone would become husks of their former selves. And this Colosseum, that lore, paid a perfect tribute to that. It's great stuff. I recommend reading the lore every once in a while. The lore is deep, but it leaves just enough questions for you to ask more. And that's always what people want to do with lore, is ask the tough questions. Or the dumb questions. Well, maybe not dumb, but like silly questions. Dumb and those kinds of words just tend to be what I go toward, but yeah, the proper word would be silly questions. Proper word? Proper words. Anyway, let's take care of a totem. Let's just have him keep his distance. That's great. I better make sure that message wasn't something important. Oh, and I never did type those messages. Oh well. By the time I came back from the 5 minutes at the start of the stream, I just wanted to keep moving. I totally forgot that I'm supposed to put out on Discord when I go live. So my apologies to the Discord folks. Or anyone else for that matter. Where is the blueprint? Blueprints are important, folks. Make sure you pick them up. We could go back and review our blueprints at any time. We're doing this, are we? If you insist. Yeah, one of the disadvantages about this place, though, is that enemies do, you know, can just teleport to you. There's no, like, you could use the cover to, like, trash a whole bunch of enemies beforehand, but, you know, they could just teleport to you and render it completely moot. Oh well. That's what Dawn of Masteries throws at us. Truly. I don't know if today is going to be a full-fledged stream. Today might be a shorter one. It's already 10. I'm thinking about the fact that I'm probably going to have to be up at 7 in the morning, and I might not even make it to that. But I want to give you guys something. Not just nothing. And this is supposed to be my reward for a job reasonably done with voice meter. If this works and, you know, the data consumption is reined into enough of a fine-tuned control, then I will have won. I would consider that a victory, a win. I need one of those. And I need one of those because I've been taking a lot of L's in the last 4 months or so. Even though I'm mostly over, and I've done what I can to, like, ask for forgiveness for what I've done to my friends, it still hurts. The pain isn't gonna go away. Not for a long time. And I seriously have to reconsider what friendships mean. What are they supposed to mean? And I don't want to even think about the prospect of what this would feel like if this were someone I actually gave my heart, you know? I worry what my reaction would be like, that I wouldn't ever recover. I am somewhat recovered, but I think if I were the guilty party in that situation, like I was when ghosting my friend, I don't know if I would be living right now. I probably wouldn't be offing myself, but I don't know if I would care to live. But at this point, going back to the real situation at hand, in my life, I've done what I can. If there's aren't ever replies back, then there's nothing I can do. I just have to stand and take the silence. Oh. He's coming. You might be coming, but you're not cooking. Not today. I bumped into the meme. I wanted to use it. Sue me. Is that a... That's Kilrian's Shattered Soul. Interesting. That's a really rare material. It's hard to find that anywhere. I've been hunting and hunting for it. You can use that to make a number of different scintillant objects. Yeah, I think it's scintillant. If not, it's something I know we can use. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Go ahead and just adjust our position. That's better. And I know we'll need a defensive, better defensive ability eventually, and I'm not sure what that's going to be quite yet. I don't know if we need to focus on armor. Oh, well, I kind of know the answer to that. And the answer probably is armor. It's the thing that casters tend to sort of lack most of the time. Let's see, a high amount of spirit. Gotta be careful. A high amount of spirit increases your capacity for pain. Interesting. I think capacity for pain means, like... has to do with, like, elemental damage, or, like, energy absorption, or other things. But, talking more generally about, you know, the Arcovia in general, it's, it is quite the unique place. It introduces you to a couple of things. You think that you would have all the knowledge you need. That you would have all the knowledge you need to play the game at this point. But the game throws more at you. A lot more. It gets better. Or worse, depending on how you want to mention it. Arcovia doesn't have much music, by the way. It is just kind of this ambient noise. All that aether fire just everywhere. Mm-mm-mm. Absolutely ridiculous. But this is a lot of fun. This is even more fun than the cold build I had earlier. Mainly because Electrocute is just cracked. Absolutely busted. I don't know how this, like, passed through balancing, but it did. Greetings. You do not know of me, but I have heard of you. I am Balvaruk, of the Order of Death's Vigil. Your exploits lead me to believe that you may be just who I need for my assignment. That spirit, are you a necromancer? Does Calderos frighten you? Yes, I am of the Order. I would have hoped that a pariah such as yourself would be more understanding of the prejudice people of my practice are faced with. Now, will you listen to my proposition, or will you continue to stare into the deathless eyes of my companion? What do you want me to do? Yes, I'm here to purge this land of several malevolent spirits. Their tainted presence has corrupted Arcovia long enough. However, my masters have underestimated the degree to which these ancient oligarchs have surrounded themselves with their former subjects. The Arcovian Undercity is swarming with the dead. I admit far more than I can handle without the aid of my brothers. But you are quickly proving to be a force of reckoning this world has never seen. You damn right. Travel down into the Undercity and banish the spirits of Nomos Dread, Laudos Vagra, and Rovena Kerr. When you are finished, seek out my companion Calderos at the entrance to the Steps of Torment. He will guide you to your final target. This is worth a lot of experience. It's also very painful. But before we make our way to that, we do have some matters to attend to, namely that devotion shrine. Every devotion shrine counts, and there are a limited number of them. And once you spend your points, there's no turning back. So you gotta be careful. You have to be patient and prudent with your decision making. When you're going through. I forgot what I was talking about. I really just blanked on the spot. I'm sorry about that. The important thing is that well, I guess just know that the Arcovian Undercity isn't something to be trifled with or taken lightly. Also, the Arcovian Undercity is just the start of the more heightened dangers that'll be happening much later on. Okay, we're gonna sort this. Then move to that tab. Every augment counts. And this is how we're going to make our money, by the way. This is exactly how we're going to do it. We're going to be swimming in bits. So many bits. that we can buy as much dynamite as we want. No, you know, no more hoarding of blue items before dealing with other stuff. Alright, so what else do we have here? Methinks the best skill to grab is gonna be probably Aura of Weakness. But that's at the end, and the only reason I'm putting points into the actual class itself is so that we can prepare for that eventuality. Pathetic. Alright, were we working on anything? We were. That should help us out quite a bit. 3 energy per second is roughly the equivalent of like a level, I'd say 25 ring, which is nothing to scoff at. That could mean the difference between, you know, one more spell and dying. All right then. Trust me, the noise from the Arcovian, like, background or tile sets annoys me as much as it annoys you. There's no music. There's only despair. There's only pain. It's fitting, but it is boring. And look at how many, wow, I'm not doing a very good job of filling the space for you, am I? So before we move on, first I'll show you that there's even more to this place than meets the eye. Second, you know, what do you guys think about the various builds that are present inside the game? There's all kinds. There's acid builds, vitality builds, fire builds. There's a ton of fire builds, by the way. Chaos. You have all these different types. You have your defensive builds. You have your pet builds. You have your pure shredder builds, like mine. You have a lot of stuff available to you. And Dawn of Masteries is the choice. Tantalizing, overwhelming, busted, broken. I don't know. I like it. But then again, I'm a pretty easy person to please when it comes to games. Just you know, don't be a jerk when it comes to your story writing, and I think most people will get along with me just fine. Even something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Origins, where like the open world was lauded for being too big and too empty. Even those kinds of games I would find relatively enjoyable. I'm easy to please in that regard. Or maybe my standards aren't high. Depends on how you want to look at it. Are you teleporting here or not, good sir? I'm surprised electrocute isn't getting us in more trouble. Well, I mean, I am not exactly surprised, but it's nice to not have us get in quite so much trouble while we're here. Although, the trouble ain't gonna be the electrocute, folks. It's gonna be withstanding the blows. We can have all the damage in the world, and it won't matter if we die before we... Oh, I didn't place a rift. My bad. None of it's gonna matter if... You know, if we die. If we die before we ever get that chance. And I was wondering whether we were going to find that wasp nest. Now I know. And now the game gives us guitar. Put a rift here. Thankfully, I kind of know the layout of this particular cave. It's not particularly long. But enemies in wasp nests can be very brutal. Hitting really quite hard. Thankfully, there seem to be a lot of grobles in here. And not so many wasps.
That skill's not ready.
Like there is a wasp buried in that madness over there. And poison snakes. And of course a big giant saurus ready to kill us. Yeah, those giant dinosaurs are also not fun. You soon learn that Grim Dawn of Masteries does have quite a few unfun enemies in it. Like, I do praise it, and I do think it is worth praising, but not every enemy is delightful. Those giant dinosaurs can pounce on you and kill you in, you know, at most 2 to 3 attacks. Barely enough time to react for teleport. Thank you, Mr. Raccoon. I appreciate the subscription. I'm, just tone that down a little bit. Thank you. Sincerely. I hope you, enjoy the content. I realize I'm not the best when it comes to said content, and especially this late at night. I'm doing my best to sort of remain quiet, but I suppose my idea with this kind of content is, A, it's stuff I don't have to edit. I'm terrible at editing. B, more than anything, I'm trying to show off a game that I love. A game that I love dearly. and a game that I've grown to love since I've bought it. Grim Dawn is... It's definitely not perfect. It can have its rough spots, but modded or not, the story is good, the characters are good, the writing is excellent. You know, the only thing that could be a problem is... How do I word this? I suppose the only real problem is the fact that there's just a defense meta in these kinds of games. Like, yeah, having damage is all well and good. Look at what we're capable of doing. We're shredding things. We're level 47 in a place that in vanilla we'd be around 30 or 27. Dawn of Masteries enables some really cracked strategies, but none of that matters if we die. And yes, we have our spacing tools, we have our ice bomb, we have our tethers from our crystals, we have a teleport we can use to get out of trouble, but none of that matters if we're one-shot. None of that matters if an enemy just teleports to us and just rips our face off. Whatsoever. Our walls can be walked over. We can be bled to death like that. If this were a hardcore run, it'd be over right now. 47 or not, you'd have to seriously focus on defense. Also, we didn't put a rift where we were supposed to. My bad. But Grim Dawn is something that I think everyone should play at least once. Even if you're like, ugh, this isn't as good as Diablo, that's fine. Diablo will always hold a somewhat of a soft spot for me, especially Diablo 3. It's the one I played to completion. 2 was a little bit obnoxious. And 3 had a good chunk of build freedom, at least until Great Rift started up, and then it became about pushing that next Great Rift. But the build freedom is still there. It's more like a... Sorry, I'm lucky I caught that sneeze. It's more like a step ladder. They're constantly changing builds to get the next primo build in, like, just in place, ready and waiting. You push as far as you can with your favorites, but ultimately in Diablo, you realize that if you're gonna push to top tier, you can't afford that. You just have to switch to the effective build. Oi, fun. Should probably use a potion before it gets bad. I said this in the Coliseum, but these confined spaces are just as great of a place to talk about the terrain. Should always use it to your advantage. If you can snipe something over the wall, do that. It could be the difference between you and death. Especially with Electrocute getting us in tons of trouble. It doesn't take long for us to get into any sort of trouble. One stray enemy just flying off to the left or right, and suddenly we've pulled that group over there. And Harrow's Dread hits rather hard, as a heads up. And even just hitting an orb to get the loot contents out of it had a straight electric arc. The game can give and the game can take away. But that's what I like about Dawn of Masteries is the build choice. You don't feel so forced into defensive skills early on. You could just sit here and nuke things across the screen. It's perfectly fine to be this broken, because Dawn of Masteries reinvigorates what single player fun means. That resurrecting, no, I guess it's not the right size. This game's great fun, at least in my opinion, and I could go on and on about it, but I'm not going to. Well, I might talk about it more, but I want to make sure I haven't missed any, like, live messages. It doesn't look like I have. What do people think about my nighttime voice? I don't require an answer, but I do want people to be thinking about it, and it is nice to know. You know, do I have... Is it clear? Is it consistent? Do people think I have choppy words? My forming complete sentences when I talk? Because I set this up, I set up my voice meter to account for my normal voice, not necessarily this one. If I did set it up to account for this voice, then if I have to yell for any reason, you guys would be bleeding out of your ears. Or I'd have to mute my mic if I thought about yelling. Lovely. I love this build. Lightning is a very accessible element in Grim Dawn. It's right up there with fire and, like, acid. Okay. Need to... Oh. Let's change that. We apparently forgot our weapon buff. Never forget your, if you have an augment that buffs your weapons, use it. It's reserved energy, sure, but it's damage. It's free extra % damage. Well, okay. It's not free, but it is good. You do have to craft it. But you should bump into the crafting recipe just by playing the game normally. You shouldn't need to do extra work just to get it. Just gotta pick the right blacksmith, which in my eyes is always Duncan. But I am curious to know what that choice might have looked like if I had picked, is it Angrim? I think it's Angrim. I think that's his name.
I can't do that yet.
I'm curious as to how that would have panned out. I guess I want to take this opportunity to thank people for stopping by or leaving a follow of any kind. Or I guess a subscription. You subscribe? Thank you. I think I might have said that to the person who subscribed already, but it's worth saying again. I appreciate it. I wouldn't say I'm exactly getting my start. This YouTube channel's been kind of old, but at the same time, this is probably the first time I'm taking content seriously on it. and I want to do right by you guys. And this is YouTube exclusive. Twitch folks don't get access to this. You're getting something they're not. So take that for what you want. You know, make of it what you want. But I do seriously want to make sure I'm pursuing both Twitch and YouTube as a means of growth on top of, you know, your social media, your Twitters, your Instagrams. But really nothing comes close to networking. Need to, like, just get away. Some of them emit, like, an aura that just makes you bleed. Nothing to do. You just gotta get out. But, yeah, I try to do the best I can. I try to make sure that I'm paying attention, although I strive to be unique. And I think a way I can be unique is by bringing you modded content that I wouldn't say you'd see anywhere else. There'd be some person who's tried it. I'm certainly no Gopher. That's a YouTuber, by the way. Gopher's a prolific Bethesda game specialist, famous for their, like, Mod Organizer 2 and Vortex tutorials. They're pretty well known among the modding space. I'm not one of those. But I am someone who's patient. And, you know, I stick with the mod packs. I try not to operate above my skill. That could kind of get your computer in trouble, folks, if you're a heavy, prolific modder like me. My eyes are searing so bad, but I'm gonna make it another 40 minutes. I at the very least want to show you the next floor. This is what happens when you treat your streams as rewards, folks. It's not the smartest game plan in the world. But for those who maybe didn't know, I had problems with my monitor today. Wouldn't turn on for some strange reason. I just had to reinsert it into the into like the HDMI port. That seemed to fix it. But then the main portion of the reason that stream was so late today is that I had to spend 8 hours working on voice meter stuff. And by voice meter stuff, I really do mean that. Windows had an update recently, like a support or legacy update for 10, and it wiped my settings for my streaming computer. All of them. All the settings. I even had a backup saved, and that still didn't fix it. So what did I do? Right, the last days of Arcovia and the Forbidden Arts. Let's read these and then I'll continue my story about, you know, what I did today. As I write this, dark columns of smoke billow up from the port where the madness long pullulating in the restive populace has finally boiled over. A blazing merchant's galley abandoned by its crew and freed of its moorings plowed into a group of fishing boats, wooden splintering, the fire quickly spreading among the sails. I hear shouting in the courtyard and the clash of iron not far beyond. A woman screams repeatedly, her words indiscernible. For so long we feared our doom would come from the barbarous mountain tribes, but in the end we've been the instruments of our own demise, helped along by the insidious promises of the necromancers. It is not yet 2 moons since the great rituals were undertaken, led by our ever-reaching oligarchs. The rituals intended to bring immortality and ensure the lasting greatness of Arcovia. Ever the skeptic, I figured it for a sham, political theater at best, but the ritual seems to have been a tragic success. This ritual was the invention of a necromancer named Urobaruk, a man imprisoned in the steppes of torment, who, it is said, did not age and could not be killed by any means. The leaders of the 3 greatest houses, including my own patron, Laudus Vagra, made an ill-conceived journey to the tower in hopes of compelling Urobaruk to give up his secrets. Here immortality worked against Urobaruk, as he was subjected to the most brutal and imaginative forms of torture that could be devised for a man who could not die. Finally, Urobaruk agreed to instruct them in the ritual, and the oligarchs, blinded by their lust for immortality, were all too eager to believe his will broken and accepted the ritual as genuine. It has become clear that the people of Arcovia have indeed gained a form of immortality, but it is a cruel and twisted fulfillment of that promise. Our bodies still suffer the ravages of time, eventually dying and decaying, while our spirits remain trapped within, eternally bound to this land. I have witnessed this myself, as the sick and the elderly, near death at the time of the ritual, remain with us yet. Their bodies visibly decay in the manner of a corpse, yet they continue on as though living, able to move and talk, still much the same persons as they were in life, yet not. All who suffer this death of the body become somehow less vital, less dynamic of thought. They become ever more narrowly focused on whatever concerns them most in life. It is disturbing to witness families that do not know what to do with their deceased, yet still present loved ones. More horrible still are the rumors of babies born since the ritual. Abominations, they say, deformed and bearing dark, grisly feathers. It is said that many forlorn new fathers have been seen trekking into the broken hills, bundle in arm, to leave their unnatural offspring to the elements. The din of fighting and wailing continues on below. I expect it shall for quite some time. Since the combatants cannot die by any mortal means, I will sit with my books and continue writing for whatever time may remain. Perhaps all eternity. Theodocus Vagra, scribe of Arcovia. So, they eventually became harpies? Is that what we're getting out of this? Anyone who was truly cursed, who was born and not quite, an adult, became a harpy. Anyone else, it's kind of like looking at the Forsaken ones in World of Warcraft lore. The old humans who died and became undead, that kind of thing. Now, the other piece of lore. Forbidden Art, Part 1. They whisper about us when they think that we're not listening. They fear what we can do, and yet they crave it. It is only in man's nature to fear what he does not understand, and our art is no different. Necromancy was never held in high regard in Arcovian society, but it is only in recent years that we have been treated with such growing animosity. Now, with the recent formal decree from the High Court that we are not just outcasts, we are criminals. What they fail to understand is that the only crime committed that day was against the pursuit of knowledge and the advancement of our people. Already they are rounding up my brethren under the guise of justice and taking them deep into the den of torture they call the steppes of torment. I suppose it is only a matter of time before they come knocking on my door. Well, well, well. Hopefully we find more of that. I would be a little concerned if we didn't. And I was wondering if there was a sudden glitch where enemies could not possibly have been present. Turns out I was wrong. A pity. Oh, and I thought that was like closed off, but maybe that was just the depiction of the a depiction of the bridge. Yeah, that was just a depiction of the bridge. We could keep going. What does everyone think about the lore? Deep, dark stuff, huh? If you want to access your lore anytime, you can press Q, and that'll bring you up to your codex. If you press... figure it out in a second. Or not. Well, you can always tab over to your quests, completed quests, or devotion shrines, if any. We've got a long way to go before we get them all. Sorry, I am taking a minute to kind of formulate what I want to say. Maybe a little bit longer than that. So, the lore is like this really scary, depraved thing. Does it disturb you? It should. It's a good example of how one's lust or a group of people's lust for power can betray them. They could be so sure, like all the physical evidence could be in front of their face, and yet the enemy broke them in the end. Ouroboros had tricks up his sleeve. As we will soon come to find in Act 3, 4, and so on. Well, we won't find it out directly, but you could find out directly. I'll explain more when we actually reach the pertinent portion of the game where a certain choice becomes more relevant. But I will explain it then. And I'll pull up relevant facts if necessary. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm exploring the like remaining section of the ruins that are dark, and then we're gonna make our way to a rift. My eyes are really starting to kill me. Anyone else, feel the same way? I'm just curious. when my body is tired and is giving out on me, my eyes are the first thing to let me know that I'm truly tired. They burn. It's like someone's pouring hot sand into my eyes. I mean, it's not that sharp, but it's the best way I know to describe it. It's like a general feeling of weariness. Like I know I'm supposed to be sleeping. I just wanted this, I wanted this stream to be rewarding. I wanted to reward myself, mainly. Because dealing with voice meter, and that reminds me of getting back to what I was trying to say. Voice meter is not an easy thing to learn. I spent 8 hours figuring out what kind of... First I tried it with voice meter banana, and then I decided, you know, I was just gonna rip the band-aid off and learn potato. Granted, no matter what build of it I tried, I did initially copy some stuff. No matter what I tried, though, no matter how much verification of the setup I did, it's still going to come down to, like, individual components and how much, you still have to think about where everything is going. You can't just set and forget it. You do have to think a little bit. I am keeping an ear to the ground for better options than voice meter, but voice meter is very modulable. The learning curve is steep, but I feel once you've learned it, it's very rewarding. Please, stay your weapon, mortal. I ask only that you hear my plea. What is it that you need? Many ages ago, my people made a grave mistake, and now we pay for our hubris, eternally bound to this land, but our children do not deserve the fate placed upon them by our curse. My daughter, Lutra, now stalks the broken hills as a hideous harpy. She suffers for my sins in the body of a monster, bitter, twisted, and having never known a mother's love. Please, mortal, find my daughter. Deliver a swift and merciful end to her eternal torment. If you do this for me, I will gladly give of my essence to strengthen yours. Sure, we can do that. Do not do this game. Do not do this to me. You're doing it. You're doing it. Can't even get a simple rift. That's okay. You know what? This actually pans out. Yeah, it crashed. What can I say? I'm not really surprised. It actually works out, as I didn't really... I mean, I wanted the rift so that we wouldn't have to deal with that again, but at the same time, we wanted to go through the old scars, so we were gonna have to double back anyway. I don't know. It just sucks. And I'm sorry that the stream is ending on this note, but I am quite tired. And I have to get ready for an event in the morning. Very early. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. My apologies for the abrupt end. For those of you that are on YouTube today, I'll be streaming on Twitch on Sunday. We'll be playing some Elden Ring Reforged. That'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait. It's a mod of Elden Ring. Google search with that name will tell you everything you want to know. I promise. Um, Other than that, the next time we will be meeting together on YouTube, uh, we're going to explore the Arcovian Undercity. That's about all I could say about that. My name is Coin, or Swirling Vortex 09. Of course, I'm Swirling Vortex 09 first. Um, or you can call me Steven. Any one of those three names fit. But, thank you for stopping by, and, you're always welcome on the stream. Anytime. I enjoy the company, and you're always welcome in my hallowed halls anytime to drink, be merry, and have a serious conversation about anything. You know, just don't break terms of service. Don't don't make me regulate you. I don't like doing it, but I will if I have to. But you guys are usually pretty nice to me. Well, I think I've said everything I've needed to say, so thank you. And I'll see you next time, guys. Take care, and bye bye.